Hey guys, so we're going to be in the 4th grade ELA workbook, and I am going to read the stories out loud to you, but you are going to follow along with me, okay? We are going to start with lesson 1, and we're going to start the read aloud on page 5. So go ahead and turn your page to page 5 and get ready to follow along. The Giant Turnip, adapted from a Russian folk tale. Long, long ago, in a small village in Russia, there lived a farmer and his family. The farmer was a big, strong, old man whom everyone called grandfather. His big, strong wife was called grandmother. Their grandson was a big, strong young man named Ivan, who had a big, strong wife named Galina. The family grew many kinds of vegetables on their land, but grandfather loved turnips most of all. He loved roasted turnips, turnip stew, pickled turnips, anything with turnips in it. One day he decided to grow the biggest turnip anyone had ever seen. He planted seeds in the rich black soil and watered them. In a month, leaves began to push through the soil into the sunlight. A month later, the leaves were huge. Grandfather was sure he had grown the biggest turnip ever. He grabbed the leaves and tried to pull the turnip out of the ground. He pulled as hard as he could, but the turnip wouldn't move. So, he called grandmother for help. She grabbed grandfather's waist, and they pulled and pulled until their strength was gone. The turnip did not move. So, grandmother called Ivan to help. Ivan grabbed grandmother's waist, and grandmother grabbed grandfather's waist. The three of them pulled and pulled and pulled until their strength was gone. But the turnip wouldn't move. Next page. So, Ivan called his wife, Galina, for help. Galina grabbed Ivan's waist, and Ivan grabbed grandmother's waist, and grandmother grabbed grandfather's waist. The four of them pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled until their strength was gone. The turnip wouldn't move. So Galina whistled for her big, strong dog. The dog grabbed Galina's belt in its mouth, and Galina grabbed Ivan's waist, and Ivan grabbed grandmother's waist, and grandmother grabbed grandfather's waist. The five of them pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled some more until their strength was gone. But the turnip was still stuck in the ground. Finally, a little mouse came by and offered to help. Everyone laughed when they saw the mouse and said, "What can she do to help? She's too small and weak." That didn't stop the mouse. She jumped right up and grabbed the dog's tail, and the dog grabbed Galina's belt in its mouth. And Galina grabbed Ivan's waist, and Ivan grabbed grandmother's waist, and grandmother grabbed grandfather's waist. All six of them pulled with all their strength. The turnip popped out of the ground. Everyone thanked the little mouse because it was her bit of strength that made the difference. Then they all sat down to eat the giant turnip. Hi. Okay, so now that we've read, we're gonna move on to the questions. So I'm gonna read the questions out loud for you to help you go ahead and answer them on your own. Remember to try your best and really think about three main things, right? Who are our characters? They could be people, animals, and they might even be objects in our story. You also want to think about the setting, which is where and when the story takes place. So where is the story happening? And then last thing you're going to think about is the plot. What is happening in our story, right? What are the things that happen and what's the order that they happen in? Okay? So we're going to go on to page 7. I'm going to read the questions aloud for you. Question number 1. Read the sentences from the passage. Everyone laughed when they saw the mouse and said, "What can she do to help? She's too small and weak." That didn't stop the mouse. What does the last sentence reveal about the mouse? So the last sentence says, that didn't stop the mouse. What does that tell us? Write your answer on the lines below. Okay, moving on. Question number 2. Which of the following sentences would you include in a summary of this passage? Select all that apply. A. Grandfather loves turnip stew. B. Grandfather grows a giant turnip. C. The turnip won't come out of the ground. D. Galena is wearing a belt. E. The whole family and some animals pitch in to pull up the turnip. So which ones summarize our story? Flip your page, page 8.
I think you're right.
Moving on, question number 3. The following question has 2 parts. First, answer part A, then answer part B. Part A. Which of these sentences could be a theme for the passage? Click or circle all that apply. So the theme, right? That's really what our story is about, the message it's trying to give us, okay? So working together is a good way to solve a problem, A. B. Only strong young people should work on a farm. C. Don't look down on someone based solely on their size. He or she may surprise you. D. Don't start a project that you can't do all by yourself. So again, which one is the message that we're trying to get from our story, okay? Part B. Which excerpt from the story best supports your answers to part A? Circle all that apply. A. Grandfather was sure he had grown the biggest turnip ever. B. The 5 of them pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled some more until their strength was gone. But the turnip was stuck in the ground. C. All 6 of them pulled with all their strength. The turnip popped out of the ground. D. Everyone thanked the little mouse because it was her bit of strength that made the difference. Or E. Then they all sat down and ate the giant turnip. Next question. This is your last question based on that reading. Question number 4. How does the illustration relate to specific descriptions in the passage? Write your answer on the lines below. Okay, good job. That's it for that reading. Moving on to the next story in this lesson, okay? I'm going to read it aloud to you. This is on page 9. Page 9, okay? Follow along with me. An Earth Day group effort. On Tuesday morning, I was up for hours before my alarm clock rang. I had a whole list in my head, and I just knew I wouldn't rest until everything on the list was crossed off. This year, I was supervising the planning for the 4th grade Earth Day celebration. My teacher had made me the leader, and I needed to do a good job because everyone was counting on me. That morning, Mom noticed that I was inhaling my breakfast. "Are you going for a world record in cereal eating?" she asked. "Nope," I said, "but I have to get to school early. I have so much Earth Day work to do." "Jasmine, are you sure you aren't doing too much?" Mom asked. "Why don't you give some tasks away?" I scanned the list in my head again, and I decided Mom was right. That day, I gave everyone a job to do. Sophie was in charge of selling tickets to the celebration. Josh's job was to make and post flyers around the school, and Manuel would write an Earth Day speech. I would still oversee everything, but I had also kept the biggest job of painting a Save Our Earth banner. It would be 20 feet long and 10 feet high, with letters big enough to be read from the entire schoolyard. I was a little worried about finding the time to actually make it. The thing is, as soon as I gave all the jobs away, I suddenly had a new job, answering everyone's questions. After school, I had just tracked down some fabric in the art room when Manuel stopped by and found me. "Do you think my speech should focus on recycling or not littering?" he asked. "I think both are important." I said, my banner completely forgotten. Before I knew it, Manuel and I had spent an hour talking about speech ideas, and it was time to go home. The next morning, I got to school early again, and Sophie was already waiting for me. I have the tickets, Sophie said, but I don't know the school rules for collecting money. I didn't either. Let's go ask the principal, I said. By the time we were done, it was time to start social studies class. That afternoon wasn't any better. I had just sat down in the art room to sketch out my banner when Josh appeared. Hey, Jasmine, can I borrow your markers? He asked. I need to make the flyer, but all the markers in here are dried up. Inside I groaned, but I knew I had to give Josh the markers. The flyers had to go up soon. After all, no one would show up to our celebration if they didn't know about it. I looked down at the sketch for my banner. I draw one hand holding up Earth to show that our planet needs people to take care of it. The day before the celebration, I finally had time to start painting. But after 2 hours, my eyes were blurry, and I still wasn't done. I was starting to worry. How would I finish in time? I walked outside to get some fresh air and think about it. When I got back to the art room, I saw Sophie, Manuel, and Josh standing around the unfinished banner. You've been helping us all week, Manuel said. It's time for us to help you. Josh grabbed some blue paint and painted the oceans, while Sophie painted the continents green. Manuel started stenciling the letters for the words. Now that everyone was helping, my brain suddenly felt a lot less crowded. A new idea for the banner design came to me. Let's add more hands holding up the planet, I said, to show that everyone can work together to save Earth. Okay, that's the end of our reading, so we're going to move on to page 11. I'm going to read the questions and the answers aloud for you. Reread these sentences from the passage. This year I was supervising the planning for the 4th grade Earth Day celebration. My teacher had made me the leader, and I needed to do a good job because everyone was counting on me. Based on context clues, what does supervising mean? A. Planning a celebration. B. Being in charge of something. C. Being first in line for a celebration. D. Failing at an important job. Number 2. The following question has 2 parts. First answer part A, then answer part B. Part A. Which word best describes Jasmine? A. Angry. B. Responsible. C. Strong. Or D. Forgetful. Part B. Which sentence from the story best supports your answer to part A? My teacher had made me the leader, and I needed to do a good job because everyone was counting on me. I scanned the list in my head again, and I decided Mom was right. C. Inside I groaned, but I knew I had to give Josh the markers. D. Let's add more hands holding up the planet, I said, to show that everyone can work together to save Earth. Moving on to page 12, question number 3. Who is the narrator of the passage? Is the narrator telling the story from a first-person point of view or a third-person point of view? Explain how you know. In this one, try your best to answer the question. Okay? Number 4. Circle the statements that describe possible themes of this story. Circle all that apply. Many workers speed up the work. Don't do other people's work for them. Working with others leads to disagreements. A person who helps others will likely get help in return, or you can get more done when you work alone. Question number 5. How does the illustration help you understand the story's events? Write your answer. Number 6. The giant turnip and an Earth Day group effort. So both of the stories that we read explore a similar theme, but they use different points of view to do it. Explain how these stories' different points of views affect how the story is told and how the theme is shown. So think about it. Both of our stories are talking about working together as a group, right? One of them is talking about how you just sometimes need a little bit more, right? Another one is talking about how, in the end, if we all come together, we can get the job done, right? So think about it. What's different about them and what's the same? All right, that's the last question. for this lesson. Okay, bye. See you later.